Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Equipcast. My name is Jim Jansen, and I'm your host. And I have a good conversation for you today. Kathy Slusarski and I sat down. Kathy and I, we've been friends for about 5 years now. We met in the context of pastoral planning. Some of you know what that is. It's that process whereby a diocese tries to properly allocate resources for our parishes, the facilities, and the priestly support. And oftentimes, as demographics change and as populations shift and as priest availability drops, it means loss. Kathy's been through pastoral planning 3 different times with her little parish in Duncan, and she tells the story about the hope that she has, about the way her faith has grown through the process of pastoral planning, and some really cool things that her little parish in Duncan is doing to build community and to begin to share their faith. She talks about how just the community has grown closer together, how people are stepping up to serve, and really how people are having profound, if not ordinary, profound encounters with Jesus. It's a great story. She talks about online. We give a little plug for CEC. It's a really good conversation. For those of you who have any connection to pastoral planning, any small town background, you're really going to appreciate my conversation with Kathy today. Take a listen.
Welcome to the Equipcast for the Archdiocese of Omaha. Designed to help leaders to transform their cultures, to embody the pastoral vision, to be one church, encountering Jesus, equipping disciples, and living mercy.
Kathy Slusarski, welcome to the Equipcast. How are you?
I am great, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so good. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Kathy, how long have we known each other? Has it been about 5 years now, I think?
Yep, I think it's been about 5 years. 5 or 6 years. Yeah. No, it's just been great. Getting to know you.
Yeah, likewise. We've met in the context of pastoral planning. It wasn't personally stressful, meaning there was no tension with us, but we met in the context of what was a kind of a stressful situation, a little tense with the parishes grouped together. You're a member of the parish in Duncan, but Platt Center, Duncan and Tarnov. And I remember coming out for a meeting there, and there were a lot of wonderful people there. Everybody that was there was wonderful, even the people who were agitated. But there was some intensity there, and gosh, I don't even remember. But yeah, we had a chance to, I think, kind of meet there and connect. And I am really excited for you to be able to share a little bit of your story personally, and then kind of how it weaves in with this phenomenon. Not unique to the Archdiocese of Omaha. Almost every diocese in the United States is facing similar challenges in what we call pastoral planning, as we have to shift resources because of changes in priest numbers, shifts in population from rural to urban centers, the disaffiliation of the faith. It's a Nebraska thing, it's an Archdiocese of Omaha thing, but it's pretty universal around the country. So I'm really glad to be able to talk about it today. Kathy, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell people a little bit about tell people a little about your faith journey and when you first encountered Jesus.
I am a born and raised Nebraskan. I was baptized in the parish here in Duncan. I had my children were all baptized here in Duncan. I was married in this church. The church here in Duncan was our second home. My children were forced by their mother and their father to do something at the church. So they either had to be a mass server, a lector. They had to do something. And if there was a job to be done around the parish, they knew they were going to be forced to do that too. The volunteering has continued generational. So
that's great.
I am very excited about that. I am a widow. My wonderful husband, again, I buried him from this blessed church here in Duncan. I've been a widow 9 years now. It definitely has been a journey there too. So I have 11 grandchildren who are the most amazing people on this planet.
Yeah.
Oldest is 12, youngest is 6. So we're packed in there pretty tight. 7 boys, 4 girls. Grandma still lives on the farm, so they all love to come out here and have a great time too. They all get along great. I am blessed. They all get to go to Catholic school. Their parents are all happily married and are very active in their faith also. So I have been very blessed in that way. Through all of my journey, I have always been active in my faith. My faith has always been very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was the crazy mother that dragged babies to church for daily mass. I love going to mass. And so, I was the one in the back of church with the baby probably screaming because they didn't want to be at mass, but mom wanted to be at mass.
Yeah.
So my faith has always been very important to me. I was blessed to be able to attend Catholic school here in Duncan also. We had a Catholic school, as did most small towns. So from early on, my faith has always been very important to me. I can't name any specific time when I had my first encounter with Jesus. He has just always been there with me and has always been a very important part of my life.
It's beautiful.
My husband was tricked into going to CEC by our pastor here in Duncan years ago. My husband lost a bet to our pastor. That seems really odd to say that.
Oh, and that's great. I love that. What was it about? Was it football or was it?
No, my pastor said, told my husband that if he could get my brother to go to CEC, would he go also? Because my pastor knew that I wanted to go. And of course, I knew my brother would go. So there we go. My brother went, so my husband had to go. And that really was a change for him. My husband was a very good active Catholic, but didn't really embrace the encounter with Jesus like he would have after CEC. After CEC, he just at CEC, he really had an encounter with Jesus, and it did change his life. So,
and for those who don't have the context, CEC it's a weekend retreat that really is amazing at fostering an encounter with Jesus. But there's this rule, so make sure I get this right, that it's all men on the weekends and all women on the weekends, and the women aren't allowed to go until their husband has gone, which is brilliant in assuring that the men get on the retreat, because the wives are usually nudging them because they would like to, because they've heard how wonderful it is from their friends.
Right. Yes. So after that, we really, I guess, embraced our faith more. We were always at church. We always were doing things. But after CEC, we really did change our prayer life. We prayed together. We just really encouraged people to go to CEC because it really is a life-changing experience. So
I mean, you can tell it's really interesting. From folks of us here that work for the archdiocese, as we travel about, when we get the joy to go out to some of our rural parishes, there often isn't a lot of programming or staff at rural parishes. There's, amazing hospitality, deep faith, usually the best food. But when we would go there, CEC is so powerful in the rural area. It felt like we could kind of almost pick out the faces and the head nods and the individuals who had experienced this. And so inevitably, if we'd be in a conversation in a parish hall with a group, at a certain point, we're like, well, have any of you been on CEC? And sure enough, there'd be just, a dozen or so hands that would go up. And you're like, yeah. And you could just tell that there was a vibrancy and a joy for those who had experienced that.
Yes, I agree that it really does bring you much closer to Christ, and the joy of your Catholic faith and just the joy of knowing Christ just comes through much greater after you've been through to CEC.
Yeah, we weren't planning. CEC is CEC is not a sponsor of the Equipcast, although, but we just gave them a great plug, a highly recommended. So, Kathy, I want to talk about pastoral planning here. Again, I kind of made an attempt to define it. It's just the planning of, okay, with the facilities and priests and staffing and all, how do we best allocate? How does a bishop best allocate the resources at his disposal to serve the people of God in his diocese? And it gets challenging because that changes when less people are practicing the faith than in previous generations, when populations shift dramatically, like often happens between our rural and our suburban areas, and then you get we had a really high number of priests, exceptionally unusually high number of priests through the 70s and early 80s. As we kind of settle back into what is really more normal, we feel the loss, and some places it gets really intense. And so, without being crass about it, pastoral planning ends up being that process where sometimes a bishop, in consultation with the pastor and the people of the community, say, okay, this parish needs to close, or this parish, we can no longer say Sunday Mass, or these two need to come together in order to keep the faith vibrant. Let's bring both of these shrinking communities together to maintain vibrancy. Man, those things are hard. As we enter into that conversation, I want to give a couple of disclaimers. One, we don't have any inside knowledge about how pastoral planning is going to go in Duncan or anywhere else for that matter.
No.
Two, we don't have any desire to minimize the pain and fear people feel as this process unfolds, and as special places and routines are potentially going to change. We want to offer hope, but we don't want to minimize the challenge. And I just said it, but what we really want to do is we want to offer hope and additional perspectives that hopefully make this easier. So those are kind of my disclaimers. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Kathy.
No, I certainly, would add the same disclaimers. I am been part of pastoral planning. This is my third time around.
Yeah.
It is a difficult job. And for the first time, it was really difficult because it was with the consulting group, and they were just, they put everybody on the chopping block, and we were really, we were there, but thank goodness the Archbishop stopped all of that and, went a different route. And then the second time around, we were very ready to go with the whole plan that was proposed. And then again, they stopped that too. So we're in it third time around. I am very hopeful. We have a great pastoral planning committee here. It's the three Columbus parishes, Platte Center and Duncan, which are the two smaller parishes. We're very blessed to have the three churches in Columbus. Columbus is a vibrant Catholic community. For the size of the town, to have three Catholic churches, and two of them are really big Catholic churches, is just amazing. So for us, I think we've seen the writing on the wall that we probably are not always going to have a Sunday Mass here, but that doesn't affect how we feel about our community. A lot of people, yes, especially the older people, it's really hard for them. They have been a part of this parish, and it's difficult for them to travel, even though it's only 10 miles to go to Columbus, but it's difficult for them. So, we certainly have tried to keep them a part of this, and to certainly acknowledge and hopefully minimize any of their fears about what's going to happen if we, do have to give up our Sunday Mass. The committee that we have in Columbus has been amazing. We have a great committee. They are all committed to making this a great effort, a great moving on for other people, and not to minimize the parishes in Duncan and Platte Center. They've been very open to working as hard as we can to perhaps keep a Mass at each of those parishes. So that's been great.
I appreciate it. I mean, Kathy, not to, we don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I'm sure those consultants were nice folks, right. But there is there's something different. This approach to pastoral planning, I think it's not completely unique to Omaha, but I think it's something that we've tried to say, okay, let's do this. God bless professional consultants, but let's do this ourselves. Let's do this inside. Let's have a conversation between the bishop and those he's asked to facilitate pastoral planning, and the pastors and the lay leaders at the parishes. And my goodness, it's going to be hard conversations, but let's do this together.
Right.
I know a part of that has been just providing people an awareness of some of the numbers. I alluded to the data around shifting demographics and priest availability, disaffiliation of the faith. This is not your first time with pastoral planning. You've seen some of that data. How did you first react when you saw it?
Well, I guess the first time I saw it, I wasn't completely surprised. I mean, we knew that there is a real shortage of priests. We have seen the shrinking numbers of our own parish.
Sure.
And you see it just at ordinary weekend masses. I mean, we, like all parishes, used to have 3 masses on the weekend, and they were pretty much all full.
Yeah.
Now we have 1, and it's usually semi-full, but some weekends, depends on when the Huskers are playing sometimes, or,
right.
That kind of thing too, as to how many people are at Mass here in Duncan. And we do only have 1 Mass even now, and that's been for several years that we've only had 1 Mass on the weekend. So it wasn't surprising for me to see those numbers. I knew they were coming. And again, the shift from the rural areas to the urban areas is absolutely hard to not recognize. You see, even in our own parish, you see the kids that grew up here who no longer live here in the rural areas. They've all moved to the urban areas. So I was not entirely surprised, but I know a lot of people are thinking, well, we still could have our parish open. And hopefully, that will be, even if we don't have a Mass here, that we are still part of a community, and we still can get together as a community and fellowship and do things as a Catholic community or as just an ordinary community. We're trying to foster a real community relationship here, even with the people that live in Duncan that are not Catholic. We certainly invite them to all of the events that we have and that kind of thing. So,
Kathy, I'd love for you to talk more about that, because again, you've had to process this possibility of closure or merger, or just stopping Sunday Mass, which I'm glossing over. There are distinct differences in all of those terms. Some of them involve legal elements. Others are just a change in where Mass is celebrated. Without making those distinctions, how have you processed those possibilities? You don't seem to be anxious, or knowing how precious the community and the church at Duncan is to you. You don't seem to be, for lack of a better word, fretting about that. How have you processed that? Because that's hard.
That is hard, Jim, and probably before I would have met the people from the archdiocese, you included, I might have fretted more, but I have, through our leveling sessions and through the mentorship program, I have come to know that, yes, I love my church here in Duncan. Don't get me wrong. I love being a part of the community here in Duncan. The people here are very special to me. You go to Mass, everybody at Mass, but that's not my Catholic faith. That's a building. The community certainly is part of my Catholic faith, but I can have that relationship with Jesus, whether I go to church here in Duncan or whether I have to go to Mass in Columbus or somewhere else. We're very fortunate. We live right on the edge of the Lincoln Diocese, so there's a small country church outside of town here too that we are able to go to. So all of those churches, we're blessed that the Catholic faith is the same no matter where we are.
Yeah.
If I go to church in the small country church, or I go to church in Columbus, like I did this morning, we're all part of the same Catholic faith. Jesus is there. The Holy Spirit has a plan for us, and he certainly will not abandon us.
Kathy, just for those who aren't familiar, I'll take a shot at, first off, the mentorship program you mentioned. It's a 2-year training program for lay people in prayer and evangelization, how to share your faith in kind of the ordinary circumstances of your life. So that's the mentorship program. And then the leveling sessions are parish-based workshops, usually 3 nights. I very fondly remember the food we had when we came to Platt Center, Duncan, and Tarnow. We did it all together. But 3 parish-based nights that are very similar. It's introductions to prayer, to the call of the new evangelization, and then just a little kind of taste intro into sharing your faith. Talk a little bit about what you took away from those experiences and how they've shaped the way you process pastoral planning.
At the time that we started the leveling sessions, and then I joined the mentorship program, I had a prayer life, but it was my prayer life. Didn't really share it with other people, So when we had the leveling sessions, and you taught us how to do a small group session, and again going through the mentorship program and learning how to pray and how to share and just one-on-one with another person has really changed my life. To come and do this here and sit here and visit with you, Jim, I would have been terrified before. I have adopted my favorite saying from the Bible is "Be not afraid." That has become my motto. I do not hesitate to tell people how God works in my life, whether it be from Him providing me the most beautiful sunrise that I've ever seen, or whether it be a hug from a grandchild. He works in my life all the time, and I don't hesitate to tell people that. And before this, I would not have shared those things. I mean, I knew they were from God, but I would not have shared that with other people to tell them that is how God is moving in my life. And I do not hesitate to tell everybody that is how God moves in your life. So that's how those things have changed for me.
Yeah, I love that. Which is not, I mean, this is not like, I want to make sure to emphasize for those listening, they're like, oh, evangelization training program. Thanks, I'll pass. Like not for me. But like if what Kathy's saying could be any encouragement, it's like, no, it's just letting the ways the Lord is loving you, one, growing in increasing awareness of those ways, and then sharing those. Like, this is not rocket science. This is not, it's not a theology degree or some advanced studies. It's very simple and accessible.
Yes, very much so. The mentorship program or the leveling sessions, both. Certainly we were encouraged to learn how to share our faith with other people, but the way that I, as a kind of an introvert, shares my faith is very different from someone like Jim Jansen.
Yes.
who can
may
really,
or may not be an extrovert.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, one of the things that, I really love the story here, and I'm like so excited. I hope we can do justice to it. I very fondly remember those leveling sessions, not just because the food was amazing. And I'm sorry to dwell on that, but it was just wonderful hospitality, all of the, beautiful stereotypes about a close-knit, rural community. But I remember as we were doing this, it was really fun. We were enjoying it. There was it was a great, great time. And I remember as we were driving out the last time, I was reflecting and I had this sinking feeling. I was like, oh no, have I misled people and somehow given the impression that, well, if we just go through these sessions and you all start sharing their faith and maybe you get a couple of small groups started, you're going to be able to keep your parish open. And I was deathly afraid because I, really cared for you all, that I was like, oh my gosh, I've misled them. So I started right away that first session. I was like, listen, everybody, I just have to be honest. You could do everything perfect. And this is really more about population shifts and mechanized farming and forces that are beyond any of our control. You may not be able to keep your parish open no matter what you do. And I'm sorry if I've given the impression, that this is a this for that. And everyone's like, no, I mean, we know, and we almost don't care because we found something here that's beautiful in it itself. And we're going to take it with us wherever we end up. Really a beautiful moment for me.
And I agree. That was, at first, I think that is what some people thought, that if we went through these trainings and got some small groups started, that possibly that would affect whether we were going to be opened or closed. But as people went through the training sessions and really got to learn how to pray with scripture and share with other people, I saw them just open up and just really embrace that type of thing. And we have just done some amazing things here in Duncan that I would never have thought possible.
Yeah. Please share. I love that because because you all did it and it's so cool. So yeah, share some of the stuff that you guys have been doing.
So we do have several small groups that meet at different times, which are absolutely great. But the one really encouraging thing for me was last spring we started, we wanted to do something on the kind of like on alpha basis, but we didn't want to go through the alpha whole thing. So we did 4 weeks in a row. We called it Fellowship, Dinner, and Dessert.
Mm-hmm.
We fixed a meal and we invited all of the whole parish to come, whether you were a member of the parish or not. We invited the community to come.
Mm-hmm.
We unfortunately did not have anybody that wasn't part of the parish, but still that we threw that invitation out there. We're a parish of 100 families. We had 54 people consistently every week for 4 weeks.
That's huge.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
It's, when they came the first week, I thought, oh, they're just coming to see what it's all about. So we served dinner. We did a short video clip, and then we did some sharing at each individual tables. And then as a large group, invited if they wanted to share with the large group, and then served dessert and said goodbye, you're done for the evening. But everybody then came back the second, third, and fourth weeks. I was just, I was so pleased. It was just great to see everybody sharing, everybody embracing the message that was on the video. It was just really, really cool. The Holy Spirit was definitely at work in our parish.
Yeah. I love that because it's not rocket science. Again, especially I think about like our rural communities. I don't know why this is like my fourth food reference, but there is something very powerful about bringing people together around food, without taking too much of a tangent here. That's part of, I think, oftentimes people break an evangelization program like Alpha because they make it all about the information and they miss, it's really good for people to just sit and visit and share a meal. And yes, there does have to be some content, but that is not accidental to the power of this thing. And of course, I would expect, folks in Duncan to like, yeah, food matters.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we do and especially when we know that people are coming out from Omaha, we like to tempt them with food so that they come out more often. So
oh my goodness,
we always serve you really good food.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but you're right. People do need to feel that fellowship. We're in our society anymore. I mean, everybody's got their heads buried in their phones, and they don't take time to visit with their neighbors and to visit with other people. So to have the community come together and just have some fellowship around a meal, and to just stop for, even if it's just an hour and a half, it just makes a huge difference in the way that they see other people. And to meet their neighbors. We have people who have lived here a long time, and they were seated at a table with somebody that they didn't know, and they enjoyed so much getting to know somebody different, somebody new, and just to learn their story a little bit too.
Yeah, even in small towns and small parishes, the sense of isolation and people that we don't know is still very real.
Right. It is very much so. Our community, just like all small communities, we don't have a school here anymore. And so, there's not, you don't get to know people at school or at other community events. So this really helped to bring the parish together and to help us get to know each other better.
Yeah. Kathy, talk a little bit, you talked about just people getting to know each other, both with the small groups and then these larger community gatherings. Like, what are the results you've seen? Because you had the chance to go through this formal program to really dive into prayer and learning how to share your faith. These are a little bit, these are more like baby steps and more accessible. What effect is that having in people's lives?
Well, I've seen a real spirit of people willing to do things with the parish, like to wanting to be a lector or an EMHC, just wanting to participate, maybe being a greeter at Mass or something like that, or to do some little thing around the church. We, of course, don't have a maintenance committee well, we have a
Hmm.
maintenance committee, but it's entirely volunteers. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
everybody has really stepped up, to do small things around the parish, which makes it so much easier to do, to maintain our parish grounds and to maintain everything. And I've also seen a real fellowship around, after Mass. It used to be people would just, after Mass, everybody's gone in 5 minutes. Now people are standing around talking outside of church or in the back of church, just really wanting to connect with other people. So that's been good to see.
I want to highlight what you just said there, because in some ways it's like, oh yeah, okay, people are knowing each other. Yeah, they're hanging out. There's more connection. They're serving. They're more willing to help. But it's not like you weren't asking people to help before. But
Right.
now they're saying yes. Or just volunteering, coming forward. What's the difference, do you think?
I think the difference is the feeling that they got from attending either a small group or the dinners that we provided. I think they realized that was their encounter with Jesus. They may not view it exactly that, oh, that was my encounter with Jesus, but they knew
Mm-hmm.
that something different was happening and that it made them feel good. And
Yeah.
that's what people are looking for, something that makes them feel good. And
Yeah.
we all know that Jesus is the best reason in the world to feel good.
Yeah.
So to have that little bit of an encounter with Jesus, I think really does change lives.
Yeah. Because these aren't just social. I mean, the
No.
small groups, and they are social, richly. I don't know if we mentioned that there's food, but the word of God, scripture and prayer, again, in a very natural, ordinary way that people can receive. But they're like, the Lord is present in the community, and then particularly in the word of God. And that's, people are encountering him there, even if they wouldn't walk away quite in the same way they would from a CEC weekend saying, oh my goodness, this changed my life. They are nonetheless having an encounter.
Right. And they're also, by getting to know their neighbors and their story a little bit, they're gentler with each other. They're more understanding of perhaps the other person in the pew with them, or the other person that they encounter on the street. Once you get to know people and get to know their story, it just makes you understand that person a little better, to understand why they may be a little short with you at times, or they're frustrated about something. So I think all of that helps to make it a gentler community too, and to make them more accepting of other people.
Yeah. Which is, I'm just fascinated. I think what you said is totally true. I'm fascinated by it because, I grew up in Omaha, but I had the blessing. My dad grew up in Cedar County, northeast Nebraska. So I spent a lot of summers on the farm. And there is a little bit, I think, of a very positive stereotype, maybe even an idolized view that folks of us from the suburbs have about rural life. And people in the small parishes, they all know each other and they all love each other and they're always there for each other. And that's true. But you're saying like, yeah, but there is something more the Lord has given us. Yes, we do know each other and we love each other, but the Lord has done something new and different and deeper for our community and for our connection in faith through these experiences.
Oh, yes, I definitely agree. And we, like all small towns, you used to know everybody that lived in town, and you knew everybody that lived in the surrounding areas. But we're a much more mobile society. As I would walk down the streets in Duncan right now, I would probably not know half of the people that live here. So just to get to know them in a different way even has opened my eyes to some of their struggles, and to get to know them better and to know of their stories. And I think that has happened with a lot of our parishioners, just to get to know some of the people that have moved into town, and to know the different stories, and to make it a much gentler community to live in.
Kathy, we talked at the outset, we don't know how things are going to settle for pastoral planning anywhere, or Duncan, in particular. There's, strong likelihood that Duncan might be one of those places that we're just not able to continue to say mass or on a weekend anymore. Where do you find hope? I mean, again, that's just a stark and challenging reality, but there's so much hope that kind of exudes from the way you speak, and I get to see your face as we talk here. Talk a little bit about the hope you have, even amidst that uncertainty and that potential loss.
Yeah, as I go through pastoral planning, like I said, this is the third time, it becomes very obvious that eventually the archdiocese, with the number of priests that we have and the demographics in the larger parishes, that we are not going to be able to say mass at all of these small parishes. I wish we could, because it's very beautiful to go to a mass at a small parish and to feel that real sense of community. But we're still the same church. We're serving the same God, and He is so good to all of us. And He is in the large church and in the large community, as well as in the small communities. He is there for us all the time, and that is what gives me hope. I love my Catholic faith. I love looking for the blessings in my life, and that gives me great hope always. Whether I'm going to have to go to church in Columbus or we'll be blessed to have a mass here in Duncan for a while.
Yeah. Kathy, I've never quite thought about it, but as you speak, I can't imagine how hard the pastoral planning process would be for non-Catholic communities. And what I mean by that is Lutheran, Methodist, Episcopalian. It depends on which part of Nebraska you're in. There's some parts and towns that are very, very Catholic, and some that are very, very Protestant, some that are kind of a mix, Catholics on one side of the town and Lutherans on the other. But there is something about the unity of worship and faith that we have as Catholics that, as we begin to, as the demographics necessitate a celebration of faith within a new community, that's just got to be a little bit easier for us as Catholics because of the unity we have in the way we celebrate and worship.
Right. Another thing that I find so beautiful about our Catholic faith is that it was kind of a COVID thing, forced a lot of parishes to broadcast Mass, and that has continued. And that makes it easier for people in the rural communities, especially the elderly, who can't necessarily get to Mass daily or even on the weekends, that they are able to watch Mass online. I have even a couple that are Lutherans that I'm close with, that they're close friends of mine. And I mean, these are diehard Lutherans. And he watches Mass every morning because he can watch it on TV, where the Lutheran Church doesn't offer anything for him. So I just think that that's one of the blessings that has come out of COVID. Is that parishes continue to broadcast their masses online, and it makes it just such a beautiful way for a lot of people to start their day where they don't have access to a daily mass.
Yeah. I thank you for saying that, because I think for those of us in the metro area where, the snowplows are out, the minute the first flake hits the ground, it can be difficult to appreciate. It's like, oh yeah, you folks in Duncan, gosh, you're only 10 miles from Columbus. You're like, yeah, but have you driven those roads when the snow drifts in? And there is something really unifying and powerful about being able to connect with your community, even if it is simply, just via the mass broadcast or live stream, where you can hear your choir, however good or bad. You can hear your pastor, however, the pastor's preaching is always good. So you're like, we can stay connected with our communities. That's something. It's not just a convenient thing. And I love what you're saying. It's maybe not even just a COVID thing. There's something powerful there.
I agree, because we have we, of course, being a small rural community, don't have any elderly housing or elderly care facilities here. And so a lot of our parishioners have gone to Columbus because they have to go into some sort of a facility. And they routinely, we are one of the parishes that we don't broadcast during the daily mass, but we do broadcast our weekend mass. And they do love the fact that they still can be a part of the community by watching that live stream. So that just is really an awesome way for people to stay a part of their community when they're in a facility, or whether they are living out in the country, and if they are elderly or not able to make it into town for mass, that they have that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kathy. Our time has flown here. I just want to give you kind of a last word. What would you say to someone listening who they want to take a first step in helping their parish become a missional community? We haven't used that word in this conversation, but that's kind of what the whole thing is about, that whatever structural changes happen around us, we recognize that the Lord is calling us, and then, here in Omaha through our Archbishop, to rediscover our missionary identity, and that our parishes would become, again, missional communities. Is somebody's feeling that, and what you talk about with the small groups and the nights, larger groups, gatherings, is somebody's like, yeah, I kind of want that. I'd like to be a little bit less agitated by the potential loss. Where should they begin?
Well, I think, just have coffee with a friend and ask them if they would like to join you in maybe getting together with a couple of other friends and forming a small group. I would contact the evangelization office and get some resources as far as how to conduct a small group, because it's very, very simple and very, very gratifying. You don't always have to have food, although food is nice.
Yeah.
But
thanks for that.
But just to get together with, whether it's 2 or 3 people, and just to start from there, and it just grows. And perhaps after you become comfortable, then you can expand it to maybe everybody wants to then invite 2 or 3 more people and form some other small groups. And as far as doing a parish activity, just start with, again, that same small group and see if they wouldn't help you organize something. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Here in Duncan, we had a taco bar the first night, I think, or lasagna the next night. So it was simple things, because a lot of the people that were helping with the activity work, and so of course they weren't able to come during the day and help with food and stuff. But these were things that we could perhaps prepare the night before and then just stick them in the oven before people came. So it just doesn't have to be anything fancy. We had fun with just doing some simple meals and just handing people a beer or a glass of wine even when they walked in the door, just to get to know them. And it was just great to do that kind of thing. So that's just start small and start simple. That's my thought on it.
Yeah. Amen. I love it. And we would be happy to, if anybody's listening here, we'll put contact information at the end here. But if you're interested in finding out about those leveling session things, if you're interested in the mentorship program, we'll put a link. The mentorship program has its own website, and there'll be another group starting up in August. We'd be more than happy. I mean, that's why we're here, to help, parishes come to a place where they're able to begin, however small, in kind of rebuilding their community and beginning to look outward towards the larger towns and counties that the Lord has entrusted to us to share the gospel with.
And I guess the only other thing I would say is, the people that you invite to coffee or to a small group don't have to be Catholic either. I mean, this is not.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
We don't have to all be Catholic. We have people that go to different churches that have joined some of our small groups, and they just love it, because they too don't have their church here in our small community. So they too have reached out and have really embraced the idea of the small group. And it's non-denominational. We're Catholic, and we want everybody to be Catholic, but that they are able to join us, and sometimes they put us to shame when it comes to, oh, well, where is that in the Bible? And they whip it out. We're not quite as fast with our Bibles as they are, but it's just a great way to share and to become part of a community.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Well, and in many ways, that's the point. As the Lord, as we're beginning to radiate even beyond our own community, we're Catholic, and by our very name, we kind of have a universal mission and responsibility. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love what's happening in little Duncan and those parishes there. In many ways, you're an example. Whatever the structures and the parish alignments end up being, there's something beautiful happening there that I know is going to persist, no matter the mass schedule and the structure.
Yes, and that's what gives me hope too, is because we have become a more vibrant community, is that a lot of our programs, whether it be our dinner program or the small groups, or even our Eucharistic adoration, is going to continue whether we have a weekend mass or not. Hopefully those things are part of our community, and people are enjoying them, and we're really anxious to build on that. So
that's fantastic. Kathy, thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your story today.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
All right, everybody, you know somebody who needs to hear this. So when you get to the end of your drive, or you can tie up your dog and and share this out with someone, go ahead and share it out with somebody who needs to hear this story. Thanks for being with us, everybody.